Good afternoon, Kavibal. Welcome to today's webinar entitled The Diverse World of Macronutrients. I am Mr. Gerald Desmartos, a senior high school STEM teacher from Rizal, Philippines. Today, I'll be discussing the big three among the six nutrients. These nutrients, often called as macromolecules, are known to be the basic chemical building blocks of life from which all organisms are assembled. So we are going to use the lens of biochemistry in order for us to learn more about these macronutrients or macromolecules. But before that, let us first take a look on this sample nutrition fact table found at the back of our food packages. In this sample table, we could see three macronutrients. What do you think are those macronutrients? If you say carbohydrates, then that's correct. We also have fat, and of course, we have protein. Okay, so as you guessed it, we are going to discuss the three primary nutrients, namely the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the lipids or the fats. But before going deeper, let us first discuss the fundamental reason why these macronutrients were formed in the first place. No? So that is actually because of the sixth element on the periodic table, which is known as the chemical element of life, the element carbon. Okay? So the chemistry of life is largely dependent on the chemistry of carbon. Now, we all know that the most common compound in the body is water. No? So around 65% ng katawan ng tao ay water. Of the remainder, 91% is composed of only four elements: carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen, as you can see in your figure. Now, sa apat na yon, carbon is the largest, no? It occupies the largest fraction at 53%. So carbon atoms are this is often served as the backbone to which oxygen, hydrogen, and nitrogen are connected. Okay, so in your basic chemistry class, you have known that carbon has 6 protons, making its atomic number 6. It has also 6 electrons. Tapos yung apat doon, no, ay nasa outermost energy level. So that makes its valence electrons 4. Yung valence electrons na yon, sila ang nag-act as connector to form bonds with other elements. Ano kaya na-form yung different kinds of molecules and therefore different kinds of compounds. So importante si carbon kasi siya yung lightest element, okay, na kayang mag-connect into 4 different connections at the same time, no, including bond with itself, which give rise to the formation of many different molecules. Okay? So, as I have said, dahil sa ganda ng kakayahan ng carbon na mag-connect with other elements, so it could form different types of chains. We have straight chain, and we have example glucose. Rings, it could form rings such as in benzene, and branch chain such as in valine. So yung glucose, pinaka-simpleng example, yan yung sugar na makikita sa katawan natin. Benzene, it's a component of different materials like detergent, no, dyes, okay? And for the valine is important for the growth in children and for the nitrogen balance among adults. Okay? So much for carbon, and let's move on to this figure. How many different units make up this necklace? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So there are 6 units or beads, no? Now these beads or these units, you can call them monomer, and that necklace is the polymer. So meaning when these monomers are joined together, they will form a long chain of single polymer. Okay? So polymers are simply the chains of monomers. And polymer came from the word poly, meaning many, and monomer came from the word mono, meaning one. So monomer, one unit, polymer, many units. Sometimes these polymers are disassembled into its monomer parts. So the process of this assembling is termed as hydrolysis. Okay? Pag naghiwa-hiwalay yung polymer into its monomer parts, ang proseso ay tinatawag na hydrolysis. Whereas, kapag yung mga monomer parts naman ay nag-join together using a bond, no? The term is dehydration. For example, you have glucose monomers and then mafo-form siya into starch. Okay, yung polymer na starch, and that's the process. The term is dehydration. Later we will encounter these terms, no, dehydration and the other one. What is the other one? The hydrolysis. Okay, so um, let's first discuss carbohydrates. Carbohydrates are simply known as carbs, and these are energy-rich sugars and starches. Now, these are the primary sources of carbohydrates, and we will not dwell much on the nutritional side of the carbohydrates, but on its properties, characteristics, and the function as macromolecule. No? So that's why we are going to use the lens of biochemistry in dealing with that. Okay, so carbohydrates are also known as saccharides. No? The elemental composition of carbohydrates are carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And the monomer of carbohydrates are known as monosaccharides. No? So the monomer or the basic unit of carbohydrate is monosaccharide. The one example of monosaccharide is glucose. No? Yun yung sinabi ko kanina na these are the sugars found in our blood, or it is also the main component of dextrose, no, that we can find in hospitals. Okay. So carbohydrates are also classified either simple or complex. Now, simple sugars or simple carbohydrates could be monosaccharide, meaning one saccharide, and disaccharides, meaning two saccharides. That's monosaccharide, one sugar unit, disaccharides, two sugar units. And we also have complex sugars or complex carbohydrates, and polysaccharides are complex sugars. So polysaccharides, that's many sugar units or many repeating units. Okay? So for this one, these are examples of monosaccharides. The one in your left is glyceraldehyde. That is a 3-carbon sugar. So ito yung nagsiserve as the building blocks to form larger sugars or larger molecules. The other one in your right, that is a deoxyribose, a kind of sugar found in your DNA. We also have 6 carbon sugars, and these are still monosaccharides. So we have glucose, fructose, and galactose. These are the structural units of those carbon sugars. And these are the sources, or these are some more examples. Yun nga sinabi ko about glucose, no? Nasa suwero siya. And galactose is could be found in milk, buttermilk, and cheese. Fructose is the main sweetener of the honey and many ripe fruits. Okay? And now for the 2 sugar units, we have 3 samples here. We have maltose, that's glucose unit plus glucose unit. Sucrose is glucose plus fructose. Lactose is glucose plus galactose. Now, so they are joined together chemically. Okay? And these are examples. Sucrose is also known as the table sugar. Lactose is milk sugar. And maltose is malt sugar. Now, for the polysaccharide, one example is the starch found in plants. No? So, uh, si plant, okay, naisip niya na mas cool kung um, glucose units, no, yung mga glucose na yan ay ipapack niya or ilalagay niya sa isang pack or sa isang bag or sa isang isasako niya, parang gano'n, no? So, ang tawag doon, no, starch. So, para kung kakailanganin niya sa mga future metabolic processes, may makukunan siya ng energy, no? So, nakatabi yan within chloroplast ng mga plants and other organelles. Okay? So, yun nga, because glucose is a key metabolic fuel, the stored starch provides a reservoir of energy available for future needs of the plant. Okay? Siyempre, hindi papatalo ang animals as well as the humans. No? Meron silang starch version, no? Ang tawag naman doon ay glycogen. So kapag yung mga glucose ay hindi na magagamit, no? Kasi yung glucose mabilis siyang magamit eh. Yun agad ang ginagamit ng katawan kapag kailangan natin ng energy. Pero yung mga excess glucose, pag hindi ginagamit, napupunta siya sa liver in the form of glycogen or in other muscle tissues. Para kapag, for example, kinulang yung glucose na kailangan mo sa katawan, for example, nasa isang matinding exercise ka, no? May routine ka na tinatapos sa sobrang hirap na exercise. So, ang magagamit na doon ay glycogen. And ito rin yung mga ginagamit, bine-burn ng katawan natin kapag talagang, for example, nagfa-fasting tayo, okay? And susunod pa, kapag naubos na yan, ayan, magsisimula ng ma-burn yung mga fats natin. Okay? So yun yung sekreto ng intermittent fasting. And ayan, compared to starch, mas mahaba and mas complex yung mga chains ng glycogen. Kaya mas maraming stored energy dyan compared to starch. Okay? Another example of polysaccharide is cellulose. No? Ang cellulose ay makikita sa cell wall. Alam natin na ang plant cell, aside from the cell membrane, meron siyang cell wall. No? So sa cell wall, it's an added protection kasi unlike animals, ang mga plants ay hindi nakakagalaw, no? Hindi sila nakakaalis or kung merong mga movement, very limited. So to protect themselves, no, kailangan lang medyo matigas na bark, for example, matigas yung mga kanilang mga branches, no, yung mga twigs para hindi sila basta-basta nasisira ng calamities or ng mga animals. So nagkaroon sila ng added protection, cell wall, at yung cell wall na yon merong cellulose which is a polysaccharide. Now, if you zoom in, no, this is actually the exploded view of the cellulose in cell wall of plants. Kapag zoom in mo yan, makikita mo dyan yung tinatawag na microfibrils. No? These are, there are special enzymes para ma-break to kasi hindi siya basta-basta mabe-break. And i-zoom in pa natin yung microfibrils. Ito yon, no? Pag zinumin pa natin yan, makikita natin yung mga individual glucose units. These are actually the glucose units, no? So, again, merong special enzyme na nagbe-break dyan. Hindi yan kayang i-break basta-basta ng tao. Hindi yan kayang i-digest ng tao. May mga special animal, mga fewer animals na pwedeng mag-break dyan like carabao, cow, goat, no? Yan sila. Sila yung mga tinatawag na ruminants, no? So, meron silang bacteria present in their stomach to help digest cellulose. So paano ginagawa nila? Meron silang tinatawag na mga rumen, no? Yung rumen parang maliliit na tiyan. Marami silang tiyan, hindi lang isang kanilang stomach. So, kapag lunok nila ng mga plants or mga grass na kinakain nila, napupunta yon sa first part ng rumen and then nalalagyan nyo ng enzyme doon, kasama na yung bacteria na nagda-digest ng cellulose, then minsan binabalik nila yun sa bibig, okay, para nguyain ulit, no? Kaya parang every time na makakita tayo ng mga hayop na ganyan, parang lagi silang ngumunguya, no? Parang hindi sila natatapos ngumuya, pero yun pala yun, no? So kapag kain nila ng grass, no? Ngunguyain nila, lulunukin, malalagyan ng bacteria and other enzyme digesting cellulose, and then ibabalik nila sa bibig. Tapos kapag okay na, ilulunukin na ulit nila. Okay? So yun yung mga ruminants. Now, kung hindi natin siya nadadigest, paano yung mga kinakain natin like kangkong, no? Yung mga bark ng tree like yung mga gabi, yung mga ganyan. Paano yung mga yon rich in fiber or cellulose fiber? Actually, hindi talaga siya nadadigest, pero kapag kinain natin siya, makakasama lang rin siya dun sa atin na feces, okay? So, ang mangyayari, mas gumaganda yung movement ng bowel and materials doon sa ating intestine dahil nababind siya ng mga fiber na kinakain natin. Yun nga yung sinasabi about kapag mataas ang fiber content ng mga kinakain mo, you will probably have a lower chance of, having colon cancer, no? Related 'yan sa higher fiber content ng diet mo, lower risk of colon cancer. Kasi nga pinapaganda niya ang movement ng materials sa iyong large intestine out of the body. Okay? So, yan. Last form of polysaccharide, this is actually a modified form, no? Medyo malayo na siya, pero still it is considered a polysaccharide. And the term is chitin. Chitin is actually the structure of exoskeleton among crabs, lobsters, and other insects, no? So it's an it's an actually a repeating unit of glucose units, no, or repeating glucose units with a nitrogen group. So nadagdagan siya ng nitrogen, and then very few organisms can digest chitin. Okay? So, as I have said, the primary energy source of the human body is carbohydrate, and there are diet na nagre-restrict ng pag-take ng carbs, no, kahit alam natin na mahalaga ang carbs sa diet. So one example ng diet na hindi or parang pinopromote ang less intake of carbohydrates is the keto diet or ketogenic diet. So I happened to see page, no, in Facebook promoting keto diet. Sabi dyan, the very successful ketogenic diet, or more popularly known as keto diet or low carb diet, is about losing weight by consuming a lot of protein and fats and less carbs. So sa mga natin dyan, sa mga teachers natin dyan na nag-adapt ng ganitong keto diet, mas siguro kayo ang makakapagsabi kung talagang effective siya. Okay? And similar platforms still in Facebook, I found other article links, no, that saying that keto diet is based on misinformation. No, sabi pa nga sa headline, cardiologist urges patients not to follow keto diet, calling it a mistake. So ano ba talaga ang tama, no? So dun sa una nating page na nakita, parang sinasabi doon, maganda ang keto diet. Dito sinasabi, mistake and based on misinformation. So, dito papasok ang mga nalalaman natin about media and information literacy. No? So, pag nakakita tayo ng mga ganitong articles, ano ba dapat ang paniwalaan? Gaano ba ka-valid? Gaano ba ka-reliable ang site or articles na nabasa mo? So, diyan papasok yung iyong knowledge about, yun nga yung sinabi natin, media and information literacy. So, kung gusto mo siyang i-adapt, no, sa iyong lifestyle, more probably you could read more about this, no? You can research more about this, or much better, no? pwede kang magtanong sa health experts, no? Sa doctor mo para malaman kung bagay yung keto diet sa'yo. Kasi marami pang klase ng diet, no? Meron tayong South Beach diet, merong Paleo diet, no? Ako kasi wala akong diet. um, yung seafood diet, alam nyo ba yan? Alam ng mga ano natin yan, ng mga teachers natin. When I see food, no, I eat it. So, seafood diet. Ayan. So, ano lang, may mga naririnig lang ako na talagang habang tumatanda, di ba, mas less na sa carbs, no? Mas bawasan na. Not totally removing it, pero bawasan na sa iyong meal. Okay? So, yon. So, much better magtanong sa doktor para hindi tayo naliligaw. Okay? And the last function is to provide structural material for the cell, such as the chitin and the other one, what is that? Chitin and cellulose, okay? Okay, so the structures and properties of carbohydrates, though differences in molecular structure, carbohydrates are able to serve the very different functions of energy storage, such as starch, no, and glycogen, and structural support and protection, such as chitin and cellulose. So nakita natin na pare-pareho silang carbohydrates pero nagkakaiba-iba sila ng properties, no? Kasi nag-iiba-iba ang structure nila. Yung iba para sa punuan ng energy, no? Para anytime or in the future pwedeng magamit yung energy na in-store, yung iba pang support at protection. So yun yung connection ng structure ni carbohydrates sa kanyang property. Okay? So let's have a quick check. What do you think, no, based on our previous discussion, what do you think is the elemental composition of carbohydrates? Huh? There are three, right? Carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. How about the monomer or the basic building block of carbohydrates? You have what? Monomer, monosaccharide, okay? Or glucose. The examples or sources are rice, cereal, potatoes, fruits, and pasta. How about the function? There are two given function. Just give me one. Okay, the main energy source of the body, and the other one for structural support of the cell. Okay. Now, let's move on to lipids or the energy-rich hydrocarbon chain molecules. Now, these are the sources of the lipids. No? It could be from meat, fat, butter, full fat dairy products, coconut oil, and other oil products. No? Yung mga peanut oil, vegetable oil, palm oil. Okay? Fish is a good source of good type of fat. No? Okay. Ayan. Fats. Sinigang, di ba? Sino bang may ayaw ng sinigang? I mean, lagi yang nakahanda sa hapag ng pamilyang Pilipino. And kapag sinamahan mo yan ng patis, kalamansi at konting sili, oh my God, di ba? Sobrang sarap niya. Mapaparami ka talaga ng kanin. Pero, lahat ng sobra, masama. Too much of unhealthy fats such as saturated fats from animal meat and trans fat could lead us to obesity and health diseases or hypertension. No? So, in PA and health class ng mga senior high school students, meron silang tip para ma-manage yung stress. Isa doon yung pagkakaroon ng balanced diet. So, alam natin na kung ano yung kinakain natin, minsan nakaka-apekto talaga siya sa mood. And in the long run, may epekto talaga yung kinakain natin sa stress or sa overall health ng ating katawan. Okay, alam natin yan. There's no denying on that fact. And according to Tasho in 2017, there are already 18 million Filipinos who are obese and overweight. No? So in 2016 nga, this epidemic cost the country, the Philippines, no, between $500 million to $1 billion, or equivalent to 4% or 8% of our healthcare spending. So medyo lumalaki yung problema natin about obesity and overweightedness. So isa pa dito yung mga complications na kasama ng ganitong epidemic, no? So medyo tumataas yung ating gastusin sa healthcare spending para ma-combat itong problems natin with obese and overweight Filipinos, okay? So ito rin actually yung nagbigay sa akin ng inspiration to conduct research, no? Few years back, I've conducted a phenomenological research on the lived experiences of obese and overweight students of our school. So, isa sa mga share ko lang sandali, isa sa mga surprising findings na nakita ko. Alam natin na natutok sila madalas because of their appearance, no? And madalas silang nalulungkot doon, no? Kung hindi, umiiyak sila kapag sila natutokso. Hindi sila, alam natin, hindi sila komportable sa mga physical activities kapag obese na sila, okay? And isa sa mga surprising findings na nakita ko, yung bullying, no, or pangkukutya ay mas natatanggap nila from their family members, no, from their relatives. 'Di ba? Parang first and foremost dapat pamilya mo ang unang kakalinga sa iyo, pero based on the focus group discussion that I've conducted, no, I have 10 participants kasi in phenomenological research 6 participants is enough, pero to ensure the richness of data, ginawa kong 10 yung participants ko. And ayun, nakita ko doon na karamihan sa mga participants ko, malaki ang bahagdan ng pangungutya ay galing sa kanilang family members. So medyo nakakalungkot. And yun nga, I've tried to look a specific theory, no, para to support that findings, pero in the duration of my study ay hindi po ako nakakita ng theory na yun. Okay? So baka may alam kayo dyan, pa-type na lang dito kung anong theory yung tinutukoy natin, no? Pa-type na lang sa ating comment box sa Facebook natin. Okay? Ayan. Sige. Let's move on. Okay, let's move on to the real detail, or the real primary nutrient that we are going to discuss. So, lipids are loosely defined groups of molecules with one main characteristic. They are insoluble in water, no? Same with carbs, they are composed of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Anong difference? Lipid molecules or fat molecules contain more energy gram than carbohydrates, no? Around twice as much. And carbohydrates are more readily digested than lipids, and carbohydrates release their energy more rapidly. So si lipids, medyo matagal siya, no? Matagal siya ma-break, no? And mas marami siyang energy per gram compared to carbohydrates. Okay, so the monomer of lipids is glycerol and fatty acids. So here, we could see the dehydration process. That's the combination, no? Dehydration process of glycerol and fatty acids to form fat molecule, which is a non-polar compound. Now, non-polar compounds do not dissolve in water. They are said to be water-fearing or hydrophobic. Alam natin yan, no? Nararanasan natin yan kapag tayo ay naghuhugas ng mga baunan na yari sa plastic, tapos may sebo, di ba? Hindi basta-basta na aalis ng tubig ang sebo. Hindi siya kayang tanggalin. Basta-basta kailangan mo pa ng detergent, kailangan mo pa minsan buhusan ng mainit na tubig para talagang maalis yung mga fat molecules. Kasi yun yung characteristic ni lipids, no? Talagang hydrophobic siya because of its non-polar compounds. Okay? So, technically, there are 5 classifications of lipids. Dalawa kasi ang uri ng triglyceride. Isang solid or fats, isang liquid triglyceride or oil. We also have phospholipid, wax, and steroids. Okay, so there are 5 classifications of lipids. Next, now, fat refers to solid triglyceride, usually from animal sources such as meat, milk, butter, margarine, eggs, and cheese. Usually, these animal fats contain saturated fatty acids. Whereas, the liquid triglyceride or oil are from plant sources. Examples are olive oil, corn oil, sunflower oil, and soybean oil. So, ito naman yung sources ng unsaturated fatty acids, and ito yung mas healthy na type of fatty acids, no, compared dun sa saturated or dun sa fats galing sa animal meat. No, mas healthy yung mga galing sa mga oil natin galing sa plants. Okay. Another classification of lipid is the phospholipid. No, it is usually found in cell membrane and made up of phosphate group and 2 fatty acid chains or fatty acid chains. It's an integral part of cell membrane and also called a phospholipid bilayer. Bakit naging phospholipid bilayer? Bilayer siya kasi dalawa yung kanyang layer, bilayer. So, phospholipid kasi gawa siya sa phosphate groups and fatty acids, no? Ito yung phosphate head niya and ito yung fatty acids niya, no? Yung tail. Okay? So, saan siya makikita? Sa cell membrane. Ano ang ginagawa niya doon? Para siyang gwardiya ng gate, no? Chine-check niya sino ang mga pumapasok at sino ang mga lumalabas, no? Siya actually ang nagfa-facilitate, nag-move ng movement ng mga different materials in and out of the cell, no? So, hindi basta-basta makakapasok yung hindi pwedeng pumasok kasi may checkpoint. At ang nag-check nun, si phospholipid. Okay? Siya rin yung nagko-contain ng mga organelles dun sa cell para hindi sila lumalabas or napupunta kung saan-saan. So that is the very important function of phospholipid. Okay. Next, the steroids, no? It's a chemical steroids examples are chemical signals such as sex hormones or steroids work, no? Steroids work as chemical signals such as sex hormones. Steroids have a more complex structure than other lipids and a greater diversity of functions such as cholesterol. Now, in this example, we can see the diversity of steroids. Iba-iba siya, no? It's actually an animal sterol that is normally synthesized by the liver. No? So I'm talking about cholesterol, okay? And madalas akala natin kay cholesterol, bad guy siya, no? Parang automatic pag narinig natin yung cholesterol, parang masama agad. Pero in fact, si cholesterol, siya yung parang building block, no? Or parang siya yung taga-simula para ma-synthesize or mabuo yung iba pang substances that are important to an organism such as testosterone, meron ng mga tao niyan, estrogen, ganun rin, no, bile acids and vitamin D. Okay? So here an example, meron tayong peacock, no, nagdi-display ng kanyang magandang feathers, no? That is actually the action of testosterone which is from cholesterol, and ito yung pihe natin, no, meron siyang estrogen na na-attract siya dun sa pinapakitang dominance ng peacock. Okay? So, isa lang yan sa different and varied functions of steroid in organism, in different organisms. Okay? Now, the last classification of lipids are waxes. These are long chain fatty acid bonded to a long chain alcohol. It has high melting point. Waxes are also waterproof and they are resistant to degradation. So nakikita natin siya sa nature as coatings on leaves and stems para maiwasan yung excessive loss of water, no? So parang nagiging coating siya ng mga stems and leaves and even fruits, okay? Other examples, beeswax. Ayan. Function of lipids, it provides insulation and of course, yung sinasabi natin kanina, energy storage in animals. No? For example, they help or lipids help keep aquatic birds and mammals dry because of their water repelling nature. Okay? So minsan may mga nakikita tayong mga ibon kapag maulan, ano? Bakit sila nakakalipad? Parang minsan bumabagsak sila, no? Pero pag binuksan natin yung ilalim ng kanilang feather, parang tuyo pa din, di ba? Kasi may mga ganun kaming cases sa mga probinsya na may mga nakikita kaming mga cases ng bumabagsak na ibon kasi medyo tuyo na at mabigat na yung kanilang feathers. Pero pag binuksan mo yung ilalim, tuyo pa. That is because of layer ng coating, no, ng fats sa kanilang mga feathers. And yung mga mammals na nasa like whale, no, na nasa malalamig na region like in Arctic Ocean, okay, Antarctic Ocean, meron silang layer, yung tinatawag na blubber, no? Parang it's a fat, no? It's an insulating layer para hindi sila ma-freeze, no, sa mga malalamig na part ng mundo. Okay? So, yun rin yung ginagamit ng mga nag-hibernate, no? Nag-store sila ng maraming fats, no? ng maraming lipids para magamit nila sa long hibernation period during winter. Okay, para hindi sila nauubusan ng energy and hindi sila mamamatay. Okay. So other function, it also serve as material for cell membrane. It also aids in digestion and acts as signal molecules. Okay. So again, like carbohydrates, properties of lipids largely depend on the structure. No, sabi natin, lipids are hydrophobic. No? They are non-polar, allowing them to function in cell membranes and waterproofing. Triglycerides contain large number of bonds, making them ideal for high energy storage. So, yun yung different structures and functions of lipids. Quick check, okay? What is the elemental composition of lipids? Just like carbs? Okay. Hinayaan ko kayong sumagot. Carbohydrates, hydrogen, and oxygen. Ano ang difference? Kung pareho siya ng carb or pareho ng elemental composition ng carb, ano ang difference nila? Type ng sagot. Mas marami ang energy content per gram ng lipids. Okay? Mas matagal siya ma-breakdown kumpara sa carbohydrates. Yan yung mga difference niya. Okay? What is the monomer? Glycerol and fatty acid. Examples, fats and oils. The three more examples, oil, it's already there. Waxes, steroids, and the one found in your cell membrane, phospholipids. No? The function, long-term storage of energy in the body. Okay, we move on to the last macronutrient, the proteins. These are the chemistry performers of the cell, and many scientists believe that amino acids, the monomer of proteins, were among the first molecules formed in the early Earth. No, marami raw amino acids sa ocean natin. Okay, and ayun, it seems highly likely that the oceans that existed early in the history of the Earth contained a wide variety of amino acids. Actually, in English ko lang yung sinabi ko kanina. Okay, next. So these are the rich sources of proteins. Okay? Ayan. Nakakagutom. Okay. Next. Proteins are basic molecular building blocks of cell and all parts of animals. The monomer of proteins are amino acids. Okay? And virtually all proteins found in animals are made up of 21 different amino acids. Okay? 21 lang. Nagbabago-bago lang ng arrangement, no? Nagsasama-sama lang ng different combinations, and then nagkakaroon ng iba't ibang klase ng protina. Okay. The most proteins are also the most functionally diverse class of biological molecules. Protein diversity is the basis of the diversity of life. So, ang elemental composition niya ay carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen. The function of proteins are very diverse because there are 20 different chemically distinct amino acids that form long chains. And the amino acids can be in any order. No? For example, proteins can function as enzyme, and it can also function as hormone. So, pwede siyang maging enzyme, pwede rin siyang maging hormone. So, dun pa lang, no, we have several kinds of enzyme as well as hormones. So, dun pa lang kitang-kita natin ang difference, no, and diversity of protein. Okay. So, here are some examples. Collagen, such as you found in strings of a tennis racket, yung mga mamahaling tennis racket. We also have fibrin. This is actually a scanning electron micrograph of a blood clot, no? Blood clot, magnified 3,000 times. Okay. These are also different variety of proteins. We have keratin, such as found in human hair and peacock feather, and silk, no, found in spider's web. Silk is said to be one of the strongest natural fiber found in nature. Okay? Ang taas ng kanyang tensile strength. Okay? Yan. For the functions and examples of proteins, proteins can be support proteins, no? Pwede yung keratin, which makes up our hair and nails. Collagen supports many of the body structures such as tendons and skin. Fibroin, yung nakikita sa silk, and yun nga, considers one of the strongest natural fiber. Proteins could act as enzyme, and these are some examples, no? Lipase, pepsin, sucrase, okay? Now, meron tayong parang kasi parang pag sinabi nating enzyme, hindi talaga natin nakikita na, no? Parang hindi natin nase-sense, no, physically kung anong effect ng enzyme sa katawan. Pero isang maganda example ng enzyme ay yung tinatawag na amylase sa bibig natin, no, sa ating saliva, no. Ang tawag sa kanya ay salivary amylase. Isa siyang type ng enzyme na nagbe-break ng carbohydrates doon sa ating kinakaing mga food. For example, kumain ka ng loaf of bread, no? Laki nun. Kumain ka ng tinapay na walang palaman, like bun, no? Yung bread nga, yeah. Pag kinain mo siya at nginuya mo siya ng medyo matagal, malalasahan mo, nalasahan nyo na ba na medyo manamis-namis yung gano'n, no? Kahit wala siyang palaman, no? Bun, for example, kinain mo, nginuyan mo ng medyo matagal, nagiging manamis-namis yung lasa niya. That is actually the action of the enzyme amylase. Binibreak na ng amylase yung carbohydrate na nandun sa tinapay into simpler monomer, which is glucose. Kaya nararamdaman natin na manamis-namis siya. And glucose, as we know it, is sugar. Okay? So yun yung physical parang manifestation na ang enzyme ay nangyayari sa katawan ng tao. Okay? Now, other function, proteins could be transport proteins such as hemoglobin, no? Balikan natin ang inyong grade 9 or grade 10 science. 'Di ba? Ang hemoglobin ang nagpapapula sa red blood cell. And that is because of the iron present in hemoglobin. And when hemoglobin transport oxygen from lungs to body tissues, which is its exact function, nire-receive siya ni myoglobin, no? Para i-store sa tissue natin hanggang kailanganin siya ng tissue. Kasi nga, for example, may mga activities na ginagawa yung organism. Okay? So, yun yung function ng hemoglobin. And this is an example of actually an enlarged view of hemoglobin found in red blood cell. Okay. Proteins could also act as defense proteins, no? Such as this one. Example here is the antibodies, no? Narinig, sobrang naging patok yung term na antibody ngayong panahon ng pandemic, di ba? So, dun sa GIF na nakikita natin, no? That is a type of antibody na kumakain ng mga foreign material na pumapasok sa katawan, no? Kung makikita nyo, parang nagmo-move siya, ayan, ayan yung foreign material, tapos engulf niya yan, ayun, nandun na sa loob. So the process is called phagocytosis, no? That's actually a protein, no? Antibody siya. Yung isa ay 3D structure ng antibody. No, these are actually specialized Y-shaped proteins that bind like lock and key to the body's foreign invaders such as viruses, bacteria, and other pathogens. No, so itong lock na to, ito parang Y siya, di ba? Yung nasa taas, siya yung naglalak sa pathogen, and then yung nasa baba, siya yung parang kumukuha ng for example other immune cells para i-combat yung pathogen na nalock nila. Or pwede rin naman, at iba-iba kasi ang way ng pag-atake nila, pwede rin namang nilalak lang nila, okay, para i-tag na this one is foreign, na hindi to kasama or hindi to nabibilang sa katawan ng tao kaya or ng kung ano man, kaya dapat itong i-destroy. Okay? So parang search and destroy ang mechanism nila. Okay. Other function of protein, it could be in or for regulation, and hormones that are regulatory proteins influences the metabolism of cells such as insulin, testosterone, somatotrophin, and Dracula hormone or yung melatonin na tinatawag. Tinawag siyang Dracula hormone kasi kapag nawawala ang sunlight or light, no, nagkakaroon ng greater release of melatonin or Dracula hormone kaya inaantok or nakakatulog tayo. Okay? Ayan. No? Cute, no? That's another function of protein, no? It could serve as a motion proteins, and just like the function of actin and myosin found in our muscle cells or muscle tissues. May kumalat sa social media before na ito raw ay actually endorphin na hinihila papunta sa ating utak para parang happiness, no? Ito raw yung nagpapasaya sa tao. Actually, yung animations ay cute, yun pa lang nakakatuwa na, no? Nakakapagpasaya na. Parang ang saya-saya niya, chill lang, naglalakad, ganyan, okay? Pero yan ay isang myosin protein, no? Na naglalakad sa isang microtubule, no? So, it's actually dragging as a vesicle na sobrang laki na hindi niya na kayang i-move ang kanyang sarili. So, ito ay not what you're seeing is not actually an animation of happiness, but it's an animation of motion, no? Yan. Yan kasi yung nangyayari sa actin and myosin kapag there's a movement in our muscles. Pag nag-flex, kapag nagre-relax. Okay? Ayan. Cute, no? Okay. So, the 21 amino acids are, that's it. Ayan. Di na natin babasahin lahat. Okay? Those are the examples of amino acids. And ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na kapag nag-combine sila, no? For example, yung isa sa mga pinakasimpleng protein na merong primary structure, tatlong combination lang, tatlong amino acid lang ang nag-combine, glutamate, cysteine, and glycine. And we have glutathione, yung sikat na parang antioxidant na nakakapagpaputi. Actually, yung pagpapaputi ay secondary effect lang ng glutathione. It's the main function or role ay talagang it neutralizes free radicals in the body, it detoxifies the body, and boosts the immune system. Okay, so yun ang roles ng glutathione, pero secondary lang talaga yung pagpapaputi. So, given other amino acids and other combinations, no, different numbers, magkakaroon rin ng iba't ibang klase ng protein. And proteins have 4 levels of structure: primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. An alteration in any of these levels alters the function of the protein. This allows for a large variety of function. Okay, actually, if we are going to discuss the 4 levels of structure of proteins, sobrang haba niya, no? Iba-ibang klase 'yan, no? May mga beta-plated sheets, no? May mga 4D styles. So, napakarami niyan, kaya kukulangin ang oras natin kapag diniscuss natin lahat. But to give you an idea kung gaano kahalaga itong mga structures na to at dapat hindi sila nagkakaroon ng mutation, no? Any unwanted, this is an example of unwanted alteration of amino acid sequencing, no? Sa sickle cell molecule, no? Okay. Sa hemoglobin, for example, there are actually 600 amino acids, no? There are more or less 600 amino acids combined to form a healthy hemoglobin. Now, kapag yung isang amino acid doon sa 600 na yon ay nagkaroon ng substitution o na-alter or nag-mutate, pwede siyang mag-result into sickle cell. Okay, or yung dahil yung hemoglobin ay may mali, isa sa 600 na amino acid combinations, no? May isang mali lang doon, hindi niya na ma-retain ang kanyang shape, magiging sickle cell siya. Like this. Ayan, yan sickle cell dyan. Kaya, yung normal biconcave shape ng hemoglobin ay magiging sickle. Okay? Magiging ganyan, sickle shape. And hindi magiging maganda ang pagdaloy niya sa mga blood vessels kasi it could clog arteries like this. Okay? Whereas kapag healthy siya, ayan ang movement. Okay? That's a single substitution. And sobrang laki ng impact, kaya yung may mga sickle cell anemia, no, sila yung nakakaranas ng dizziness, headache, and minsan abdominal pain. So sobrang liit na changes or alteration in a molecular level, ang laki-laki ng impact dun sa organism, di ba? Okay. And now let's go back, no? Quick check, formative checking lang. What are the elemental composition? The remaining elemental composition for protein, nitrogen. Okay, that's CHON. And the monomer of protein is amino acid, correct? How about the function? There are a lot of examples, no? How about the function? Ayan, storage, signal, structural, defense, enzymes, transport, receptors. Okay. Now, I will leave you this quote from Hippocrates, and according to him, no, 2,500 years ago, according to him, our food should be our medicine, and our medicine should be our food. No, kahit sobrang tagal na ng quote na 'yan, okay, talagang meron talagang katotohanan 'yan, okay? Some diet or some food encourages diseases like cholesterol, heart disease, okay, obesity, diabetes, and some food, kapag inalis mo sa diet, naaalis rin yung mga sakit na gano'n or nape-prevent yung mga sakit na gano'n. So, ayan, ganun lang kasimple yung gustong sabihin ng Hippocrates. Okay? And thank you so much. Please follow me in my YouTube channel, sciencesenseiTV. And I am now ready for the questions. Thank you, everyone.